Hello and welcome back to the Dune Minute Podcast, your place to dive deep like a sandworm into the cinematic adaptation of Frank Herbert's world of Dune. I'm one of your hosts, Zach.
And I'm John. That's a deviation that I'll accept.
I was about to say, I got you laughing over there.
Yeah.
That one.
That was a good one.
All right, we are back. We are talking about minute 132 through 133.
Yes.
I got to be honest, man. I don't have a lot of notes for this one.
Nope.
Yeah, this is going to
be another one of our shorter episodes.
Yeah.
So
let's dive right into it, man. The worm is continuing its exit.
Yep.
It is still slithering off screen. I thought it was really, really cool how much we get to see the sand behaving like water as it's leaving.
That is literally the entire first paragraph of my notes. It's like, yeah, it is. It's splashing up on the rocks like water. It's, falling back into place like water. Like it is. Yep. They just took a water modeling software and just replaced the texture and then called it a day, I think. Yeah.
But it was still really, really cool how that looks on screen.
Yep. And we learned how the dunes are made because it's just the high spaces on either side of the path of Shai-Hulud.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a massive path that it carved out getting to this rock. So really, really massive.
One thing we talked about after ending last episode, like immediately after hitting stop record, is that the Shai-Hulud that we see here in this last moment was still significantly smaller than the first Shai-Hulud that we saw when Kynes and Leto and Paul and Gurney went out.
Yeah.
And they watched Shai-Hulud consume one of the harvesters, because that harvester in Art and Soul of Dune says it's 90 feet tall. Mm-hmm. And that one just consumes this whole thing like it's nothing. So,
well,
what's crazy is that the one that we just saw is like a baby compared to.
It is small. The very few book notes that I have, I think I'll just sprinkle them out throughout as we're talking here. But there's a point in the books where Jessica remarks on how big this thing was, and we get that here in just a second as well from her in the movie.
Yeah.
What we don't get is Paul's response saying, yeah, and that one was even smaller than the one that got our ornithopter. Yeah. So when they crashed into the desert, their ornithopter gets swallowed, and that's where all the evidence of their crashing goes. But so maybe that's the same kind of analogy that you're drawing here with the sand harvester, spice harvester. Excuse me.
Yeah. So we get to see more of that fluid-like motion of sand. Mm-hmm. And Jessica just calls out to Paul and tells him to run. And
finally
get some sense and start running up the rocks.
Yep.
And then, like you were just talking about, Jessica has that moment where she's asking, how big are they? That's insane. Yeah. And then they do this weird forehead press thing together.
It's like it's some kind of embrace.
I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah.
And then Paul, Mr. Obvious, someone called it.
Yeah.
And then in this moment, Paul's just kind of looking up in the cliffs because
this little canyon looks familiar.
Jessica is, catching her breath. She's,
clutched her stomach.
Recollect herself.
Yeah.
And something's not quite right.
Well, we've seen this place before.
We have.
We've been here before.
Well, Paul has in his mind.
In his dreams.
Yeah.
And we get the resurgence of battle language.
Yes.
It comes back.
The Atreides battle language, not exclusive to the Atreides because every house has their own, but they have their own language for it. So, and Paul,
I was just about to say how useful this would be in just in real life, but then I remembered that sign language exists.
Language exists.
God, I'm an idiot.
You're really firing on all cylinders today, aren't you?
Hey, I've had a tough week, man.
In fairness, you're on day 3 of a 4-day weekend, so
yeah. After a tough week, shut the fuck up.
But yeah, Paul indicates in the Atreides battle language, we are not alone. And then Jessica is kind of also aware, at least.
They keep kind of like scanning up into this canyon that they found themselves in, and we start to hear some pebbles fall around them.
We hear a single pebble fall, and then Paul turns around and there's just a Fremen man standing maybe 5 feet away from him.
Yeah, very close. That is insane how silently they move.
Yep.
And how well they're able to just sneak up on them in this moment.
And then we see more of them.
Yep.
A lot more of them start coming out from the walls and everything. They're living inside the walls.
Yeah. And that's where our minute ends, right after we see a bunch of them start to pop their heads up. I mean, they're definitely surrounded, a 1,000,000% surrounded. The only other book note that I had for right now is that we skip the setting is different in the book. They're following the same, like Paul and Jessica run from the canyon. They start scrambling, deeper into this rock outcropping.
Yeah.
They come across a clearly inhabited, or at least one point inhabited area. Mm-hmm. Like there's plant life that's growing. There is,
there's greenery off in the distance.
Yeah. Okay, maybe this is the greenery that she saw through her binoculars or whatever. Monoculars, excuse me.
Get it right.
And like, they're like, okay, well, we have to be getting close. We have to be, getting somewhere where the Fremen are at this point.
Yep.
They see little kangaroo mice running around, some muad'Dibs on the ground.
Some muads.
And like eagles up in the sky and everything. So we actually get the book describes a lot more plant life than is evident here in the movie.
Yeah.
Or wildlife in general. But yeah, then they kind of come across the same level of ambush from the Fremen. And we will talk about that a lot more tomorrow.
Yes. Makes me wonder how Duncan's first interaction with the Fremen was, because Duncan, even a skilled warrior as he was/is/will be, was by himself and then ambushed. And I think, if I remember correctly, he talked about how
he was
almost killed.
Well,
by one.
Yes, he said, and they watched him for days.
Yeah,
out in the desert.
As we will find out later on. So we're Paul and Jessica, but nonetheless, this is their home. So the Fremen know exactly how to maneuver, and that becomes a major point of part 2 as well. But we'll get to that whenever we get to that minute in part 2.
All right, cool.
Come back next year for that one.
I am excited to get into the last couple of days of this week, man. So let's just go ahead and do it.
Call it early on this one.
Well, hey, I think we'll make up for it.
All right,
on the next one.
Fair. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So, all right. Well, in the meantime, you can find us elsewhere on the internet. On Instagram, we are at the Dune Minute. On Twitter, we are at Dune Minute, and we are duneminute@gmail.com if you want to send us an email. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or on iTunes, feel free to also rate the show, give it some comments, share it with your friends, regardless of where you're listening. And we'll see you tomorrow for the first of 2 longer episodes talking about a lot more stuff. So,
all right, cool. See you then.